Welcome back. Day 4 of Business Continuity Awareness Week. I'm talking once again with Jason Haas. Jason, great first and second segment, talking about employee engagement and how that contributes to resilience. We've got one more thing that we're going to talk about, and you kind of alluded to it a little while ago, testing and exercising.
Right. So testing, exercising, training, all these wonderful things are critical. Uh, it, Alex and I were having a kind of unrecorded conversation before we kicked this off, and I had used some very colorful language around some things, and I'm going to clean it up for this audience. So, in thinking about your business continuity plans, your culture, and all of that, is when you're activated, most likely, and your leadership's asking you, where's the plan? I think leadership thinks this plan is a get out of jail free card. And I don't believe that is true. Those, our plans can be prescriptive, it can be narrow, it can be all these things. But, when adversity strikes, like I pointed out earlier, I don't know of anyone who goes and dusts off those plans, opens it up, page one, and just follows it all the way through. And all of a sudden, magically, you're out of that impact. Life is good. You're thriving. Business resumes normal. That's usually not how it plays out.
Mhm.
So I look at more, probably the most important thing that I do is training and exercising, testing. Documentation matters too. And again, I don't want to say we shouldn't be creating business continuity plans. I might allude to that. I sometimes question the relevance on it, just like I do a BIA and things like that. But they have their place. They're tried and true. They've been around longer than I have. So, in thinking about training and exercising, to me, those stress the importance of what we do. We practice for those blue sky, gray sky, dark sky scenarios. Adversity can happen in the best of times, whether it's a vessel hitting a bridge, a regional earthquake, a ransomware event, a server randomly tips over and nobody knows why. But we can train around that. What happens when a server tips over? What should we do? Well, why did it tip over? How did it tip over? What are those other, not competing priorities, more of interdependencies that may have caused it to tip. There's always those extenuating circumstances that may shift those prescriptive methods that are no longer relevant. So how can we train for those all hazards approach? We do it often and we frequently do it. We allow ourselves to fail spectacularly, then take those lessons learned. We eliminate in our training and exercising those key stakeholders who have all the answers. Let's eliminate them. Maybe they're on PTO. Maybe they
Mhm.
got hit by that proverbial bus, or hopefully they won like a lottery and are like millionaires or billionaires and they're just off living their best life. Either way, we're left holding the bag of solving the suck and figuring it out. So let's practice, 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 reference our documentation and prove that where it makes sense. Again, in those regulated compliance type of environments, it's really necessary. I also believe in a regular, normal, unregulated environment. It's also necessary. It's part of the value we build in the programs. It's those deliverables and those outputs. Without it, all we have are ideas and concepts. And at the end of the day, leaders like tangible things that they can hold, see, and read. But we also need to be realistic about it. That is not a get out of jail free card. That is not your instructions for stopping the incident that's occurring. All you can do is embrace it for what it is, communicate effectively, collaborate with stakeholders, and don't you dare start solutioning until you understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to extend the duration of the adversity and maybe even make it worse. So those are type of things that I think about. Training and exercising, most critical component of any uh, pivot strategy an organization could have. What are some of your thoughts around this, Alex?
Well, on testing and exercising, one of the biggest gaps I always see, there's a couple actually. First, I'll start off with that pass or fail. If you don't find anything wrong, you either weren't testing or exercising properly, or you've only confirmed that where you're standing at that moment is fine. You know, any adversity that comes your way, you have no idea how to deal with it because you weren't challenged. If you find a bunch of gaps or errors or uncovering assumptions, because sometimes assumptions are just in our DNA and we don't even know that we are writing them or have them, or biases. We don't even know they're there until you actually start testing and exercising. If you uncover a bunch of those, bravo. If you're going to use pass or fail, that's a pass. because you're finding all these gaps you didn't know existed. And I've run into that actually. A large company, we had a data center. We were um, uh, simulating a data center outage, flipping over to another one, and we found all kinds of gaps. And our finance department, who was involved on the user end, said, "You guys failed, blah, 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 blah." And every IT person was saying, "Are you kidding? This is fantastic. We're happy. We found all these gaps." And finance, and all the executives couldn't understand that finding gaps was a good thing. And mentioning the executives, that brings me to another issue I find with testing and exercising. If they get involved in tests, they are tested separately. They'll bring in, and I've seen it because I've just experienced it. They'll bring in a consultant or one of the big consulting firms, and the top team, C-suite, or whatever they want to call themselves, they go through a tabletop exercise with this consultant. So how would you manage all this? And they go through their role and responsibility and whatever it is they're doing. Then you've got the IT team and the business units doing their team that don't include executives. So you've got two completely different groups testing. They're not connected, and they both have assumptions on the go. Well, this decision, if it's the business and IT team, doing a simulation, well, executives, we assume would do this and that. Meanwhile, executives are testing, and that never even came up. They have no idea. There's no connection between the two. And I find that for some reason, and I don't know why, even though it's lip service, yes, executives should be involved with tests and yeah, back and forth, they don't. And I don't know why so many executives want to go through it on their own. Give us the business continuity plan or the crisis management plan, whatever, and we'll go through a test on our own. Well, you just left off the biggest group who are going to doing the actual activities. You're doing the decision making and all the key stuff. You're not rebuilding the servers or checking that the data appears the way it should be or entering data in a spreadsheet. You're doing something different. So how should you be bringing all these together to create a proper, real simulated test and exercise? And that's what I think a lot of teams tend to forget, that they need to include executives, and executives have to realize they need to be a part of those exercises and tests. They can't stand outside of it and then point out what's wrong. No, get involved, because what's wrong could have been your part. If you were involved, maybe that wouldn't have gone wrong. So that's one thing. The second thing I always find, and the business continuity plan itself, to go back to that, I think we should rename it to a business continuity guide rather than the plan, because the plan kind of keeps you on a road with the blinders on. This is our plan, go this direction. When a guide says, well, here's some things to consider. And then you can actually find, okay, here I go this direction. Oh, and if I hit that, then I go here. It's a little bit more open to interpretation, more adaptable to a situation. A plan, really, a business continuity plan, it means in its title one thing. It's our plan, one plan. That's it. But there are hundreds of different things that can impact you. So
Right. And going back to the idea of the tree analogy, where the root system is business resilience and the branches are business continuity, branches break. You figure
yeah,
when a tree tips over, that root ball is typically intact. So resilience, even when it tips, because it'll tip, you know, it- what we do as, professionals in continuity resilience, ITDR, we don't necessarily prevent disruption and failure. We simply embrace it. And we, help our organizations and our people just kind of work through it. Um, yeah. So in thinking about some of like the testing and exercising and making it more realistic, I'd like to give a shout out to Netflix. Have you ever heard of the term chaos monkey?
yes, I have.
Ah, wonderful. For those that haven't, and keep in mind, this might be not the best explanation. Google and AI can only provide me with so much on what this actually is. If somebody from Netflix wants to, give me the details on it, hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to know more about this. So Chaos Monkey, I believe, is a tool which is developed by Netflix to test resiliency and reliability amongst their cloud infrastructure, or just say infrastructure. The primary purpose of it is to randomly terminate instances of virtual machines in Netflix production environment during business hours. How they got that buy-in, I would love to know because again, if we're just testing during off hours or in test environments, are we really trying to figure this out or are we just kind of getting close? Um, so they can do it during business hours. Kudos to them. This intentional disruption simulates real world failures and helps ensure that Netflix's systems are designed to be fault tolerant and can withstand unexpected outages without impacting customer service. So random termination, regular execution of services encourages a resilient design because it's going to show you where your failures are really quick. Your customer service line will let you know. It helps identify those weaknesses, i.e., those lessons learned. Those are where we lean in and promotes, like a DevOps type culture. So that collaboration between development and operation, IT is not just a department. They are part of your organization. IT and every day that we do is critical to our organizations. Figure out if you removed IT from your organization, do you even exist?
Yeah,
Just like other business processes as well. If you have a sales department, without sales, you don't have an organization, which means IT ceases to exist. Sales is super important as well. They're bringing in the income so you can spend it. Um, so thinking of things like that and the idea of chaos monkey, what if you could adapt that beyond just IT type of things and going, what if this department was, impacted significantly? What does that mean to the organization? What if this team member, like the chaos monkey, just tell them, hey, go take a day off. What
yeah,
happens when that person is unavailable and can't, help you during those adverse times? What if your decision maker is not around? What's that succession plan look like? What happens when your board gets angry and just eliminates an entire C-suite? Now what? Just think of the other ways of taking Chaos Monkey beyond, the IT services and apply that to your organization. What if we just start eliminating and disrupting these components? What does that mean? What does it mean to your organization when payroll's disrupted? Ooh, you're going to find out really quick. I believe payroll is the most successful business or employee retention program any organization runs. Take it away for a payroll period, see who shows up. My guess is not a whole lot.
yeah,
So, what happens when those things are disrupted? Then what are we going to do about it? How do we
yeah.
continue payroll when it's unavailable?
Yeah,
There's
and
always a way.
that's the kind of thing we have to practice. You
Right,
know, those really impactful things and do over and over and over again. So the people, and you mentioned it earlier, muscle memory. They know what to do. They don't need to pull out the plan. They already know what to do. And it's not just them, but everyone gets that opportunity. Everyone should be involved with an exercise or a test at some point and not downplaying and making it simple for everybody because you don't know who's going to be available. Somebody could have won lotteries. It could have been a terrible situation where a group just isn't available for whatever reason, but everyone should be involved. Managers, directors, VPs, C-suite. The newest person who walks in the door should get a sense that they're important and that they are going to be involved with the organization, good times and bad. And
right,
they are part of the solution for in both situations. Now
right.
we've only got 2 minutes left, by the way.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. And, to think about that, the idea of our training and exercising and testing is to build confidence. Look at what skill sets do we have? Where do we lack? Let's build those new skill sets to fill those gaps. And then again, going back to culture, this testing, exercising, training, all of that will foster a culture of resilience. Again, we're just going to build it into the muscle memory and DNA of the organization and its people. We're going to support them correctly. We're going to give them the power to fail successfully. We're going to, enable them to learn and grow from that. Not every, event is going to turn out, with roses and butterflies or butterflies and unicorns. Sometimes it's just going to be horrible and you're going to get eviscerated for it.
Yeah.
But it's out of that incident and those lessons learned that you will grow and thrive. And if you have the right culture, the right resilience continuity programs, the training and exercising all mashed together, you are more likely to succeed and thrive from that event and grow from it, even if it's an impactful negative event.
And I just want to add, if nothing changes from your lessons learned, then you didn't learn anything.
There's a lesson learned in the lesson learned.
Yeah, a change has to be made, a process, a person, a role, a responsibility, whatever the case may be. If that doesn't change, then you just observed, and that's all. And you're just using lip service. You've got to make change if it's actually a lesson learned.
Right. I would call that a paper tiger. Fierce on the outside, frail on the inside.
Yeah, and I think that's what some people are afraid of. That's if we ignore it, that issue will go away. No, it's getting bigger in the background.
For sure.
On that, we've come to the end of the show, day 4 Business Continuity Awareness Week. Jason, thank you so much once again.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you to the listeners of this. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak my truth. Thank you.
I enjoy these chats with you, and we have one more to go for day 5. So everyone watching and listening, stay prepared, everybody. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.